Hey, my Legion. How y'all doing today? I'm here today to review a movie called Life Itself. And this came out in 2014. It's about the life and times of Roger Ebert. And they were planning on making a movie back in 2012, when he got sick and stuff. Well, he was sick for a while, and he passed away in 2013. And, it starts off because he had cancer real bad, and and his thyroid cancer, and then stuff in his lower jaw, and he had like a lot of his lower jaw removed and stuff. And the scenes of they don't show no surgery, but the scenes of him in his hospital bed in that condition. Could you remember the last 8 years of his life and stuff like that? If you've seen him, he was like that in that condition. And you see like scenes where like through rehab and stuff like that, and there's scenes when he's in pain, and those are tough to watch. But I mean, aside from that, they go to they start from when he was born, and they said he was a writer for the longest time, and he wrote on a paper, and then eventually he got hired by the Chicago Sun-Times. Well, he worked with Chicago Sun-Times, but he got hired as their movie review guy, movie critic. Whenever the other guy left, he was one that replaced him. And when he was doing it, he was writing, and they talked about him meeting Russ Myers. And they were talking about what's his fascination with Russ Myers. I know, because girls' big boobs. I knew that. That's easy. Because he always had a thing for that. And he did a script for Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, which I remember seeing on Cinemax in the 90s, which was a very, very odd movie. But, I mean, it's weird that he actually wrote the screenplay, because people were trying to figure out, how he got involved with that, and some people just didn't know. But he was friends with Russ Myers, and they were talking about a whole bunch of stuff, and then they were talking about being on TV. Well, they were talking about the opposing newspaper in Chicago, because the Chicago Sun-Times, they were supposed for the regular guy, and then elitist, I guess. They said elitist was the Chicago Tribune, where Gene Siskel was the movie review critic, and they wanted them to be in a show on public TV. Now, this was something I didn't know about until I found out about SiskelandEbert.org. And in that channel, they used to have a show before sneak previews called Coming Soon to a Theater Near You, where they talk about movies. And their very first one, show you how far back this went, was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And it was cool, and they showed their dynamic. It didn't talk about when they left, they had sneak previews, and they left at the movies with Siskel and Ebert, and then they left, and now they have Siskel and Ebert at the movie. No, it's just Siskel and Ebert. Or at the movies, I think. I can't remember. And it was showed their dynamic and stuff like that. It was very interesting. And the one thing about Siskel and Ebert is, I used to watch their show growing up. The very first one I saw was the one they did in 1980, if I'm not mistaken. That one, the female is always the victim, talking about the slasher genre, which I was a fan of. And back then, they didn't even have a term for it. They just called them thrillers. And then they picked up the whole slasher thing like a year later or something like that. And that's when I found out about some of these movies. And they usually bashed a lot of the horror films that I enjoyed and grew up with as a kid. But this was my very first chance to see stuff about movies. I learned a lot about certain movies coming out from them, even though I disagreed with them a lot. Especially Lone Wolf McQuade, when Gene Siskel said, that great Chuck Norris movie, Gene Siskel said he didn't like it, it has too much action in it. I'll never forget that. Me and John Walker was always like, well, you tell me it had too much action. That was a really good movie, Lone Wolf McQuade. And it talks about, their progression then when Gene passed away. And then it talks about Roger moving forward. It does not talk, they didn't have any interviews with Richard Roper, which surprised me, because he was like his right-hand man. Because, well, when Gene passed away, I know that he had a whole bunch of people, guest stars and stuff like that, as like his sidekicks and stuff, and then he ended up getting Richard Roper, and they ended up doing the show together for a while. And then when Roger got sick again, he wasn't on the show anymore. Richard had his own had guest stars and stuff like that, and then the show they left the show because they didn't like the agreement that Disney gave them. They don't talk about that in the movie, but they don't talk to Richard Roper at all. I'm surprised about that. They do talk to Werner Herzog and some other film critics. They had a thing with film critic that I only heard of through STTV called Pauline Kael, and they showed a clip of her. And I remember a long time ago on SCTV they had some with Count Floyd, and he did his own movie panel discussion thing, and they had someone imitating Pauline Kael, and I never knew who it was, and I finally got to see who it was. They showed a clip of her, and the person who imitated her in that thing from Saturday Night Live, from SCTV did a brilliant job. I thought that was really good. Well, anyways, they talk about everything leading up to it. I'm really surprised. They said that he was going to go in for another surgery that would reconstruct everything because, part of his jaw and stuff, he was gone. He wasn't able to drink or talk or anything like that. He had to talk through a computer keypad. And they had a major reconstructive surgery, I guess, that he would be able to go back on TV. And it didn't. They had an infection, so it didn't stick, so they had to remove everything. But I'm surprised he did return on to TV in a way. I'm surprised he didn't mention this. PBS, they had a show called just Roger Ebert at the Movies, where they had two people. One guy with a very hard name to pronounce, a Russian kid, and this one girl that was. They reviewed the movies, and then they have Roger Ebert, and they show him from his dad, and then they usually would have a guest voice speak for him, and that show went on for a year, and then they showed Roger Ebert there and his wife, and they said that the show's over with, I guess they canceled or something like that. But when it was, they even showed clips from they even showed episodes from from sneak previews, including the one when they were going to review the Blue Marble and the different ways that Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert reviewed movies, and that was back in the 70s, 79. I can't remember when it was, but it was a while back. And I'm surprised they didn't mention that. I remember when they reviewed Human Centipede 2 on there, and then whenever they were coming up with the worst movie of the year, Roger Ebert said that was the worst movie of the year. So that was around the time, I can't remember when that came out, 2010 maybe, and it was on PBS at 10 o'clock. But I'm really shocked they never mentioned that show. And then they talk about his declining health, and then when he finally passed away. But it was a really good movie. I really liked it a lot. I saw it on Netflix. Now, it was made from CNN Films, and it was going to broadcast on CNN and also on Headline News, and my dad did not want to see it. And it was weird because my dad was pretty much controlling the TV out here, watching football and baseball all the time and stuff. And then on the Roku, when it came on Netflix, he still didn't want to see it. But I think that would have been a good film for him and I to watch, but of course he didn't want to see it. So, and then I forgot about it for a while, and I thought, well, maybe I should watch it tonight. And I did. I'm glad I did. It's a really good documentary. Now, we do not see eye to eye about horror films. There are some horror films they liked, but I'm a big fan of horror films. I know a lot of the horror community hate them but that's how they had a listing of the dogs of the week, and some people that as kids that's how they found out about some of these movies that came out, and they seeked them out from that dogs of the week segment. That was always a fun segment, especially he even said it wrong. He said Dr. Butcher was Dr. Butcher MD, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, which is now known as Zombie Holocaust, but I think it should still be called Dr. Butcher MD. That's how I remembered it. I liked the movie real well. I give it a full-on 10 out of 10. Very informative for the critic and all of us, even though, they talk about, they said, the critic, people were complaining about, the film critics were complaining about it, saying, like that's the do on sale, but I mean of film critics and stuff like, or they were reducing it by giving like real quick reviews. They were reducing it to fast food, but I disagree with that at all. It's just the evolution, and they pretty much created a film critic show, which is now gone. You know, after whenever that Ebert and Roper was A.O. Schwartz and the other guy, they did the show. They carried on the show for a while, and then that was the end of the show. And then like a year later, Roger came to PBS, and then that was gone. That was all for the film critic shows. Just like I like to consider myself a food reviewer and not a food critic. You know. Well, anyways, I hope you like this review. 10 out of 10 for Life Itself. Very good. It's still on Netflix, and I think if you want or interested in you know, Life of Roger, or in movie criticism or movie reviews, yeah, definitely check the movie out. I think it's really good. So until next time, bye, please. Take care, my legion, and thank you to Tim Sands for making me a thumbnail. All right, take care, everybody.